I read 38 books in 2023. I thought I'd share my top 5 and a couple honorable mentions because I feel a little spicy. Also, if I keep looking down, it's because I had to write myself a loose script because my brain's a little broken. Okay, the first book's gonna be I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. I'm gonna try to give just like really brief synopsises of the books and not drag it on, just mostly say my thoughts. So this book is about 39 women who are imprisoned in a cage. They're being watched over guards and they have no clue why they are there when they got there. They only have like little bits and pieces of their lives before being imprisoned. It's a main character who knows nothing outside of isolation. I can't remember if she was born in there or not. I think so, because she's like the youngest. I think she's like a teenager, just really young, but she knows nothing else. And it's a dystopian fiction, and I think it has like sci-fi elements in my opinion. I first heard about this one on TikTok. I read it on Kindle Unlimited. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I would recommend this book for anyone, basically anyone who's ever questioned life and death and loneliness and being misunderstood. I don't know, it's a really good book. It wasn't what I expected it to be, and that's why it's my top 5. I'm not ranking these, but if I had to, this one would probably be number 1. The next book's gonna be My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. I first heard about this book on TikTok and I read it on Kindle Unlimited. Just to sum it up super quick, the book is about a teenage girl who is groomed by her teacher into a relationship. I'm gonna keep accidentally doing that, so just know that. The whole book alternates between the present and the past. The present sections are basically her reflecting on the relationship, recognizing the power imbalance and the trauma that she was left with. She struggles understanding what exactly victimhood means to her, how she was brainwashed by her teacher, and how that impacted her view on herself and other women that went through similar situations. And obviously you can tell what the book's about, so trigger warning for that aspect. But the past sections are her going through the whole thing. I think it's a really great example of children and teenagers and how impressionable they are and how easily manipulated they can be. And people in, I shouldn't have to say this, but the people in power should know better, and it's all on them. And I think it's a really good representation of what it feels like to be a teenage girl who's self-conscious and shy, wants to be taken seriously, to feel grown up, not be seen as a baby anymore, and how someone can take advantage of that. I would recommend this to anyone who has ever felt that way. It could be triggering, obviously, so take that into consideration, but I just think it's like very well written, and it shows the truth and the harsh reality of it, but if you can handle that, I would highly recommend it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book is going to be Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. In case you didn't know, Hellraiser is based off this book. I didn't know that when I first watched the movie, but once I found out, I wanted to read it. I'm trying to get more into reading books that I've seen the movies of. I need to start doing that more back to back because, like I said before, bad memories, sometimes I forget. The movie is just like the book, from what I can remember. This is the first Clive Barker book I've ever read. His writing took me a little to get used to. It's very poetic and romantic, and it was just kind of hard for me to read and for it to stay in my brain. I had to start and stop and restart a few times. It's very wordy. I have issues with retaining the information that I read sometimes, but it's my problem. That doesn't do anything to make the book less. If you don't already know, this book is basically about this little freak who is just very curious about the pleasure of pain, which leads him to a puzzle box. And I don't really want to say anymore, because if you don't already know, you should know. Come on, Hellraiser, come on, get into it. I checked this one out from the library. I gave it 5 stars. I think it's great. Everybody should read it. It's not even that long. I don't know where the attitude came from. I had to pause for a little bit because my dogs were barking, so I'm sorry. The next book is going to be Girl Flesh by May Leets. If you don't know May Leets, she's awesome. She's Nick's Fears on YouTube. She's a musician. She's an artist. She's a YouTuber. She's a writer. She's great. Check her out. I pre-ordered a copy of this, so I got the physical copy in the mail. This book is wild and crazy. It follows two women. I'm gonna put it really simply and say they go on an adventure. But this is a extreme horror book about love, of course, but so that's like trigger warning, violent, descriptive, wild. This is May's second book. Her first book was Fluids. I own that one and I enjoyed that one and I read it, of course, duh. I like Girl Flesh a lot more. I think every book she writes is just gonna get better and better. I really saw the growth in her writing style from Fluids to this. It's so good. I can't wait to read whatever else she writes. I highly recommend her, and if you're into extreme horror though, I wouldn't just recommend her books for everyone, but check it out. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And my last book before the honorable mentions is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. This is a memoir, nonfiction. I borrowed it on Libby and I read it digitally. I actually found this book by walking around in Barnes & Noble. I saw it one day and I just added it to my TBR. I truly feel this one speaks for itself. I don't really have much to say about it besides it's very powerful, and I think it's really important book to read, and it talks a lot about, I can't say the word on here, but our culture and how that affects victims and survivors, and just how much more impactful traumatic events are than just the act itself. I don't have much more to say. I just think that everybody should read it. It's really great. I gave it 4.5 stars out of 5. My honorable mentions, I'm not going to read the synopsis for. I'm just going to mention them real quick. First one's going to be No Longer Human. This is Junji Ito's adaptation. Read the original novel in 2022. It's really heavy and depressing and kind of hard to digest. There's so much going on, so I really appreciated reading this in manga form. It just helped me understand a lot more what's going on. I didn't want to put it in my top 5 because I felt it was too predictable for me because I'm a huge Junji Ito fan, but I had to mention it. So next book's gonna be another Clive Barker, Midnight Meat Train. I love the movie so much. I thought this was super interesting. Oh, I gave No Longer Human 5 out of 5 stars, by the way. Anyways, this one's 5 out of 5 stars too. I read this on Kindle Unlimited. This book is so cool. I read the special edition. It gives like behind the scenes of like Clive Barker working with the director of the movie, and like how he approved of stuff and how he really loved the idea and loved everything that they were gonna do with the movie. There's just something more satisfying about, you know, the person that made the source material approving of it. My 2023 reading goal was 20 books and I surpassed that by 18, so I'm really proud of myself for that. This year I'm only gonna do push it up to 30 and hope that I make it and pass it, of course. I think it's important to set realistic goals for yourself because I get really intimidated by things, so I would like to hear what your guys' top 2023 books were and what your goals are for 2024. It doesn't have to just be like number amount, but like genre, etc. Let me know.